what do you want people to say that they took away from learning through your leadership?
I think I would love for people to know me as your faithful hype girl. I want people to know that you've got a cheerleader in me because not all is lost. It doesn't matter what place you're coming from. We're going to figure out how to get you through, get you to the finish line.
Resilience is the armor, leadership is the weapon, and legacy is the monument. Welcome to Kim Talks Leadership and Legacy, profiling the elite speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs making a global impact through their messages, uncovering their vision, capturing their strategies, and helping you build a sustainable ecosystem. I'm your host, Kim Hayden. Let's define your legacy. All righty, welcome back. I have a repeat offender today. No, just joking.
That's me.
One of my favorite people that I've interviewed, and I don't, I it wouldn't matter what topic. I think Paige we were talking about is just you, your energy, who you are. I've always just truly enjoyed, and I'm glad that you're here in this kind of first stage, this new iteration of Kim Talks and how we're moving into that leadership and legacy. And I find it fascinating because you've pivoted a lot since we've done Kim Talks Resilience. Now that we're moving into that leadership and legacy, and you have leadership opportunities that are even presenting to you. I'm excited to dive into this. To give everybody a bit of a pre-frame, Paige Killian is she should be on HGTV telling us all how to live. She's just amazing. She is a former teacher, so she loves teaching people, bringing that the story, the experience, the guidelines, the navigation to every aspect of what she does teach or guide people on. But again, life throws curveballs, and Paige, having recently experienced one of the bigger ones we could all experience, has decided to lean into that, taking her teaching, her structure, and bringing it to the unstructured pivots that life throw at us. Welcome to the stage. Welcome to the show. How are
Thank
you?
you. Oh, I love that you said welcome to the stage because we
Welcome to
were
the stage.
yes, we were just chatting before absolutely about that, stepping into more speaking roles and things like that, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be a repeat offender. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm dying to know because I only got a little taste, and I didn't think you could get any better speaking than the last time I saw it, but I was really blown away. I got 3 minutes of you sharing this, kind of the pivot, right? So, let's talk a bit about the transition 2024, where you were at, bring us through the journey to where you are today.
Well, we had the pleasure of meeting virtually. One day I hope to be in the same room as you and hugging your neck. That would be great. But we got an opportunity to meet virtually in 2024 through Pitch Day with the Leader Organization. And got to give a shout out to Sharon. Thanks for that introduction. And I had 3 minutes to pitch what I was talking about. And then after this big, huge thing, which was the Palisades Fire, I felt like my messaging was changing because that a life altering event will certainly change the trajectory of your life. And it felt like my messaging was changing. And so I decided to do pitch day again here in 2026 after the January 7th, 2025 fires. Not only took our house down, but also so many people in the surrounding communities, all of our homes burned. Thankfully, ours did not burn to the ground. And we are still working on that. So many months and a year plus time later, we're still working on that. But back in 2024, I was sharing a lot about how I was helping people get organized in 3 simple steps. I was a professional organizer. I still am. And now, since these fires, it feels like I am really speaking to the person who has had hit after hit after hit and must pivot. And what I keep seeing is that people don't feel confident in the pivots because it's so unknown. Like you said, it's very unstructured, right? And so I take my 3 E's philosophy that I talked a lot about with my clients and speak about in my book, I've Got You Girlfriend. That's the name of the book. I talk about my 3 E's philosophy in that book a lot. But now, really taking 3 steps to a whole different level and talking about how getting that confidence while pivoting is really the key. Otherwise, we're just going to stay stuck. So, I would love to talk to you today about how what happened to me in January 2025 is really now affecting my mission and what I'm doing and talking to people about pivoting with confidence in 3 simple steps.
On its own. Um, let's go back a little to kind of who you are. You're not afraid to take a stage. And um, uh, let's talk about when this kind of bug bit. Like when did you realize that I guess being a teacher is kind of like having a stage. You got a captive audience, right?
Yes, and I started in kindergarten, and let me tell you, they're the toughest audience. They will call you out if you're
Yeah,
not doing something well.
no filters. No
No,
filters.
none whatsoever.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. I will say I was a theater major in college and
Okay.
does that track?
Yep, that tracks.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So basically, when I was, gosh, I want to say when I was in the 5th grade, I am still great friends with my 5th grade teacher, Metra. So back in the day, I called her Mrs. something else, but now she's my girl, Metra. But she in the 5th grade, she noticed something in me and she said, "I think you need to audition for a play." And I was Wendy in Peter Pan, and I got 103 temperature the day that I was supposed to go on. I had the flu, it was terrible, but I knew that I was the only person that could play this role, and I had a mission in front of me, and I wasn't gonna mess that up. And so I had, sorry, gonna tell you, had throw up buckets on backstage just in case, and like a cold cloth that I would put on my head a bit if I needed to. And I would go out and I would do my part, and then I would sit down, and then I like sit next to the bucket. I will say I never got sick. That's good. I would have been mortified, but that was okay. And then did the play and it was wonderful. And she still says that to this day, whenever she's teaching, she will still talk about, 30 years
So
ago.
that was your first pivot.
That was my first big pivot. And then if
Yeah.
you fast forward to college, and I did plays all through, then I loved that so much. I decided that as a freshman entering college, I was going to be a very responsible, okay, this is the firstborn in me. My parents didn't have to put pressure on me because I did enough myself. I decided that I was going to be a business marketing and management double major. Okay, Kim, like I had it all planned out. And my sophomore year, my parents gifted me with some time in New York to go see New York for the first time. And I got to see probably 4 or 5 plays in 5 days on and off Broadway. And I was bawling my eyes out after seeing Jennifer Jason Leigh in Proof. And I look at my mom and she's like, "Honey, what is going on with you?" And I'm crying and I'm not a crier either. So that tipped her off like something's going on. And I said, "I wanna be a theater major. I wanna change my major to theater." And she respectfully was like, "Well, duh. Dad and I were just waiting for you to figure that out."
Hilarious.
Yeah. So
Mothers know, eh?
they know. They know, and my dad's such a sweetheart, he knew too, like, it was so clear, and, sure, I now the funny thing is, if you go back, I actually after the fires, I was able to find one box that was stuff that I could still read, and I found that and I don't even remember this, I was voted in high school, well, first of all, elementary school, I was voted most likely to succeed, and in high school, there was a newspaper ad that came out, and it interviewed the senior leadership people when I was on some kind of leadership platform. I don't even remember what it was. That's what happens when you get older. Okay, I just hit 45. I don't remember all that stuff. But it said, what is the one thing that you want to do? And I said, I want to own my own business. And now I have a professional organizing company. And so that was really cool. And so I look back at these things and I think, oh, it makes total sense for how these things played out in my life. And I really was a person who was very organized from day one. So even when I was like a babysitter and a nanny through college, I would go in and I would clean up the family's home. So by the time they came home, the kids had been bathed, fed, in bed, and their house was clean and organized. And they're like, what in the world? Can you come back tomorrow, whether you babysit or not? Can you just keep doing this?
So
Yes.
so you are a professional speaker, an author, you do have coaching programs, workshops, and you could also, uh, construct and facilitate for other people to so that they can expand their knowledge base. Not everybody has that ability to architect
Mm,
actual programs or systems to stay on task. Now, with the pivot, right now, globally, we're seeing a lot of disruption. We're seeing a lot of pain. We're seeing a lot of these challenges. It could be a job loss due to the technology. It could be loss of a loved one.
sure.
It could be there's a lot of loss and disruption happening right now.
It could be
Uh,
the loss of your home in the Palisades Fire. I mean,
exactly,
oh my goodness.
exactly. What do you think people misunderstand about rebuilding?
I think anytime you're thinking about rebuilding anything, whether it's rebuilding a physical something or yourself, kind of transforming into a new person, I think that oftentimes you're you're missing that bit of looking around you and seeing who can aid you in that. And you're thinking, I got to do it all by myself, especially if you're reinventing yourself or you're doing something in your business where you are in a leadership position. And I am of the mind that community is everything. And if your tight family or friend group isn't supporting you or they're not seeing you for who you are, that's okay because that's not their journey. That's your journey. And so instead of getting frustrated, instead of feeling, just deflated and just like upset over people not understanding where you're going, first of all, trust in yourself. And I believe that if God calls you, you are absolutely capable to do these things. I feel like if you feel a tugging at your heart, again, for me, that's a God thing. If you feel a tugging at your heart and you feel like it is time for a pivot, it is time that you go through this transition, don't try to do it alone.
Yeah.
First of all, you are capable if you feel called to something, you just are, and you need to find that support system, and that may be outside of your spouse, your children, your friend group. Yeah,
Well, think of, swimming, the buddy system. You're always supposed to go swimming with another person, folks. Think of it as, having a buddy system. Um, when people rebuild, do you think that they get stuck sometimes because they expect to rebuild identical to who they were previously?
sure. You think about the organizing position, which I was so honored to have when I would go into these. Oftentimes, I worked with busy moms of littles, and we would sit in the closet and we would be crying together and praying together because why? Because the first step of getting organized is the purge, your essential purge. You got to let go of who you were before. Doesn't mean you can't still hold on to some of the things in that closet, but if you're wanting to move forward, don't be afraid of that purge and getting rid of stuff. You're going to let go, shed a lot of layers physically and mentally whenever you are getting ready to step into this new thing, and it can be really exciting. And so often people would call me when they were so stressed and they were just overwhelmed completely, and they would call me and they would just be on the brink of a breakdown, and I would say, don't worry. This is where the title of my book came from. I would say, I've got you, girlfriend. I get it. I'm in the busy mom trenches with you. I am in the transitional stages with you. I get it so much. And the purge is often the hardest part because it is letting go of what you've had before, done before, pulling the good stuff from the experience, pulling the negative stuff that can help you grow, but not being afraid at moving forward. And here's where the new, really new messaging and my mission is it is landing in this place of how do we get confidence in moving forward? How do we get confidence in the pivot? And the first part of that is embracing change and not resisting it.
Why do you think so many women feel guilt around prioritizing themselves or investing in the resources they need in order to prioritize themselves?
I think that we have been programmed to think that we can do it by ourselves. We don't need to reach out to help. And so when we have to ask for help, there is a guilt associated with that. Or you feel like I'm a bad mom because I can't do this, this, and this by myself for my kid. Well, why do you feel the need to take that on solely? Who put that in your mind that made you feel like you can only do this? What about if you're in a position in your job, in some sort of leadership position? One of my favorite things to do as a leader, I've been a leader in a lot of ways. One of my favorite things to do, the best way that I know how to lead, is to ask people around me to tap into their greatest gifts, God
Yeah,
given gifts, and use those so I can show up fully in the way that I've been gifted. And I can do that by having that support of people around me who are getting to use their gifts. We were talking about it before we hit record. Kim, you are the tech queen, genius, know all of these things that do not come naturally to me. And you were saying, and I'm not the speaker. I don't want to get on stage and speak. And I'm like, me, sign me up, put me in, coach. Me. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that that guilt comes from whoever told you beforehand that you have to know it all, do it all. One of the best things that my mom taught me is you don't have to know everything. You just have to know where to find it. You got to know who to go to
yep,
ask it.
yep, absolutely, absolutely. Um, how so how do people so when they're going through these shifts and the Palisade
I can't. I love a fun, suspenseful movie, but the fact
yeah,
is that was my reality. I had to go through PTSD. I had a virtual therapist. I got
yep,
on some Lexapro for a little while. Girl, I needed help, and I did not feel guilty because 'cause I've done some work. I
yep,
did not feel guilty about needing a bit of that medication for a bit to balance my nervous system. I was spinning out. And then having the incredible therapist who it was her job to go to school to learn all these things so that she could teach me how to do box breathing. I didn't know what that was before. How to do, all these different things. Give me these strategies that I could do. I mean, I remember getting out of my car soon after the fires because I smelled smoke and it sent me into a panic attack. And I got to tell you, like, I'm a tough chick, okay? Like, I have weathered some storms, but I actually got caught. And I did talk about this a bit on that pitch that you heard that day. I got caught up on Palisades Drive in our one way out because our other ways out were engulfed in flames. And I had my dog and my neighbor's dog in my car, and I got stuck on Palisades Drive. People were jumping the medians,
yep,
going down the wrong side of the road. I had to, on your car, you can push that button that will only circulate the air within and not pull in outside air because ash was flying through my vents into my car.
yep,
Flames were going up, burning my church, coming near our school right next to me, and I was stuck. I could not get out, and people were abandoning their cars. I was watching people coming from what was a beautiful blue sky day had turned gray with ash, only tinted orangey red by the flames, and coming through the fire behind me that I could see in my rearview mirror, holding their babies and their dogs, wrapping their heads in sweatshirts so they wouldn't breathe it in.
yep,
Some carrying, if they didn't have a baby or a dog in their hands, carrying their one and only suitcase that they were able to evacuate with. And I evacuated within 10 minutes or less. I mean, I think I was packed in 3 minutes, my one suitcase with my, important documents that I had in
yep,
our office, and I bolted because I was like, "This is moving fast." That day, there were 80-mile-per-hour winds. The next day, when my house and our neighbors' houses caught on fire, there were over 100 per hour winds, and things were just moving so quickly. Had we not had an idea of how we would evacuate and get out prior to that and know what do we do if there's a wildfire, I could have died. There were 12 people who died in that fire. And I did question for a minute, is this how we all go? Is this how I go? Is this the end? And, as terrifying as that was, there've crazily been so many blessings that have come from that, meeting so many incredible people who have changed my life. And again, I'm at this place where I'm like, I can't feel guilty anymore for reaching out for help, asking for help, and now taking that experience mixed with my expertise that I've had all of these years in helping people, serving people, whether it be in their homes, whether it be as a teacher in the school system, in leadership positions, and share with them, and I don't know if this is something perhaps you want me to get into now, but my 3 steps that I found consistently, all of these different things that happened to me, because too,
Yeah.
with that pivot, it was not, when we talked about on pitch day, it was not just the fires, but 2 weeks later, I was a zombie because I was having this PTSD, and I slipped and fell. I broke my leg, I pulled all the ligaments in my ankle, and I was in a wheelchair 2 weeks after the fire. I mean,
Unbelievable.
give me a break.
Un Yeah. Im it Well, and I think that, um, you're setting things up to to create space for people to feel approval or
Sure.
permission
Yeah.
to reach out, to not rebuild exactly as they were before, to surround themselves with the community. Community is we've seen time and time and time again, these natural disasters, these disasters.
It
Yeah,
is.
so but what you just touched on is the evolution of self and service that you have. Sure. And I wanna understand how this three-piece structure that you had already put in place for that organizational and bringing pieces together, how that moves with the new, engagement around pivoting and adapting and
This show is produced by Resilient New Media, where your message matters.
moving forward. So walk us through the 3 Ps, and let's do this and help communities heal all across. So, Paige, take it away. Teach
Thank
me.
you. Thank you. Here we go. So, my 3 E's that I talked about years ago when we were getting organized: your essentials, your enhancements, your extras. And I do believe we talked about that briefly on our last podcast episode
Yes.
together. And so with the essentials, it was going to be your absolute must do, no negotiating. We got to do that thing, whatever it is. So if it's organizing, I would always say that it was the purge. I always like to start with the purge for your essential thing, right? We're getting rid of things that aren't serving us anymore. And then it was, I think back in the day, we talked about your enhancements being like the sale or the donation of those items that you were purging. And then your extra, that was when you're styling your space. You're putting in like the proper organizers and things, right? And so those 3 E's, I thought, okay, well, now with this new mission that I so feel called to talk about is learning how we can embrace change and pivot with confidence. But that confidence piece is what's so tricky when you're talking about doing that with something so unknown. So I thought, okay, how can we reimagine those 3 E's, your essentials, enhancements, and extras? And I was like, well, the essential thing I feel is doing your research. Do your research, because if we want to feel more confident going into whether it's a job opportunity, whether it's rebuilding a home, whether it's working on something new. Yes. So that first E, the essential, I really truly do believe that when you're making that pivot, you want that confidence. You got to do your research, because once you get more information, you start to feel a little more confident about, like, okay, wait, I think I can do this. Like, I'm learning more about it versus, you don't know what you don't know. So like homeschooling for me, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I had to do a lot of research to figure out what was going to be the right program for us. With the fires, after those crazy scary fires, especially dealing with my own PTSD, I found that I became more confident when I was doing research on, like, what does the insurance company need from us? What does it look like to do remediation? What is of what's left of our home? What does it look like? Because 5 families to the right of us, they completely lost their homes. They burned to the ground. Ours half burned. Thank you to the firefighters who stopped that. That's actually a wild story too, because they thought our house was a goner. They completely ran out of water, had no more resources, and basically, like, the fire chief just prayed. And I'm praying too, as we saw it on TV and on social platforms. We saw our home and it was on fire on the back of it. And I just prayed, Lord, stop the fires. Just stop them. There was 0% containment at that point. And the fire chief, they ended up meeting with my husband, like, maybe a week or 2 after the fires. They said, "We have no explanation. Your house was actively on fire, and it simply fizzled out. It just stopped, and had your home continued to burn, it would have burned everything to the east of the Palisades Highlands. We had nothing left, and it just stopped." So for me, if that's not a huge act of God and prayers answered, I don't know what is. Now, we're not sitting so pretty right now with the aftermath of it, but I do believe that our house was used as the home to stop the fire. So
Instead of being in anger, they said, "Why me? Why me?" Whereas you're sitting here going, "You know what? I'm glad I was here because I served a purpose." And that's what keeps coming through your voice is that there isn't the victim, right? And a lot of people are walking around as in a victim mentality. You see it
no,
everywhere right now.
no, why
And,
not?
"Hey, I love you." It's like, we understand we're here for a purpose. What
Yeah.
can we learn? So we got the
Yes,
understanding.
totally. You and
Okay,
I we love a
okay.
system, girl. Don't we love a
Yep,
system? We
I
love a
I
system.
love a system. Okay, so
Love a
next,
system.
next E is
Next E, your enhancement. What's going to add style or value to that? Okay. Is like, so let's say you start acquiring all of that knowledge when you're doing your research, but then what happens? Sometimes you can have shiny object syndrome and you can be pulled in so many different directions. And so I say the number 2 thing is focus on one thing at a time. So, like, one thing that I know, Kim, you are outstanding at is figuring out all the components on the back end of business and technology, all these different things that work together for that one client you have, for example. That client, if that is not their gifting, they are spinning. They've got
uh-huh,
too much information. They are on information.
I bargained for.
Well, you know what? I will say then you and I are cut from the same cloth because I felt energized after I talked to you. I
I
love talking to you.
I you know what? I feel I clean sweeps. I just I like I said, I believe you have something really big in front of you, and I love the fact that you're tackling this pivot because, like I said, the world's on fire.
It's the
It
world
is.
is on fire.
The world's on fire, and instead of sitting here crying, we're gonna grab a hose.
Yeah. We got
Right.
to do something about it. Let's jump into action.
So the second one, the enhancement is really understanding, don't get pulled by the shiny object. Find the one thing and follow it all the way through. Go
Absolutely.
deep.
Because, you get confidence when you're checking something off your list. You imagine like a to do list. If you check something off, big or small, it doesn't matter. That check makes me want to dance. I'm dancing
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
I love a check mark. So that is immediately going to be giving you more confidence because you're like, hey, I just checked this thing off the list. Now I can tackle the next thing. So it is that focusing on one thing at a time. You're going to be more productive. Listen, if, the homemaker is listening to this right now and she's like, I'm not a business owner, I don't have those things. Let's talk about in the house. How easy is it for you to be spinning out when you're thinking, oh my goodness, and this could be male or female, whoever is at home working on raising the family, working on keeping the house running. That is no small, that is work, by the way. That is no,
Go and I think I tried to do the at home thing. I really did. And it's hard.
yeah.
It is so hard. It is so beyond my scope and my capabilities. And I have nothing but absolute admiration for people who are proactive home providers, and I believe that they should be paid. I believe that there should be child tax credits and there should be respite so somebody comes in and takes the kids for you and you get like
Yes.
it's the most undervalued, absolutely critical. Right now, around the world, they're expecting, the population in, North America, in China, and all these places to literally go down by 30% by 2050 because our young people are not having children, because they're sitting here going, "Wait a minute. If I give 20 years of my life to this person, and yet society doesn't see it as a
You're good
we're
at that.
gonna go deep.
Okay.
We're going to, do the essential homework we need to do to find the
Research.
people and products that will ensure that we can be successful. Now, when we found that, we now need to find one. We're not going to clean the storage room and the kitchen cupboards at the same time
Right.
because that just makes a mess in every room.
Yes.
We're going to pick one, and
Yeah.
we're gonna go deep, and we're gonna do it right.
Yes. And
Okay.
again, if we are talking about, your business or pivoting through something outside of the home as well, it is focus on one thing at a time so that you are not feeling overwhelmed because that is the opposite of feeling confident. When you're overwhelmed and you're stressed, that's not confidence, that's fear. And listen, I'm just going to Jesus it up for a second right now. And I'm going to say 365 times in the Bible, it says some version of do not be afraid, do not fear. So we just can't do that. So, once for every day of the
And
year that
and
you're living.
and for anybody who is listening, just so you know, fear is human.
Hmm.
And
Sure.
so when we're asking you to not be afraid, we're recognizing that when you choose not to be afraid, you are practicing something that is beyond what is hardwired, and you're moving forward and being conscious.
Yes. And your brain is programmed to keep you safe. Thank you. This again just goes back to doing your research. And by the way, even though you do your research and you move on to step two, which is really dialing it in and focusing on completing that task or completing that thing, focusing on one thing at a time, that doesn't mean you don't go back to one again and be like, okay, now with that, I need to do maybe a little bit more research, right? We're always learning. We're always the student. And that brings us then to step three, your extra. This is something that truly helped me after the fires and after falling and breaking a bone and being in a wheelchair. Ask for help. And it goes back to what we talked about before we even talked about this was you can't do it alone. And even in my book, I've Got You Girlfriend, that suggests that you're not doing alone. In the subtitle, it says why getting organized and living this mom life is not a solo mission.
Yep,
Life is not a solo mission.
yep,
It can't be. Because look, you might be doing your research and then thinking, oh, shoot, now I know what's involved in that. I got to have some help before I implement this. And that's where asking for help is so essential. This is where when you said like, what do you think is the big hiccup with the rebuild? It's like people thinking they have to take it all on by themselves. No, you don't. You can rebuild your life. You can rebuild your home. You can rebuild your business. You can rebuild. But if you're trying to do that by yourself on an island, that's the fastest way to burnout.
yep, absolutely,
We've gotta ask for help, and don't be afraid of that,
absolutely.
and just let that guilt go. Gross. Moving on. We are way too evolved at this point. We gotta let go of that.
Moving forward, what is typically the response you get when you're on stage or when you're in a workshop and you're teaching these things? What what is the response you're getting from the audience, the engagement?
I'm getting that they're like, "Wait, this is really simple. I can do this." I am all about simplifying anything and everything. That is I mean, I say, if it's not simple, it's not gonna get done. They're in a world of, Pinterest will have 7 to 10 things that you can do to blah, blah, blah. I'm overwhelmed after the first 3. I'm like, "There's
Yeah,
so many things."
yeah.
So, listen, parting words, keep it simple. There's no need to overcomplicate life. And person like myself who really values faith, I just believe God has another plan. So I'm not going to drown myself in my sorrows. Now, don't get me wrong, there were some tears and there was some sadness over the fires, of course, because again,
Yep,
we're human and we have fear and we don't know what's going to come next. But what I can tell you is I believe that God has a plan. And so I don't have to stress. I can sleep at night. And so that is what's so lovely about doing these three things is I believe that doing the research that I need to go into any new thing, any new transition, that's going to give me confidence. Focusing on one thing at a time, that's going to keep me from feeling overwhelmed and make me feel more confident, checking things off the list one at a time and asking for help. Confidence in knowing that I don't have to do it by myself. It's simple. I don't want to overcomplicate things because if I do and people are working with me, and I'm telling them all these millions of things that they have to do, they're not going to want to keep working with me. And then
exactly.
rinse and repeat. You get through that hard time in life. What do you and I both know? Something else is going to come along.
Absolutely.
What happened after the fires, after I broke my body, then we moved into our lovely temporary home that some people were kind enough to offer us to stay in. And we got here, and because nobody was living in it, there were mold bedrooms with mold. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I can't deal with this. And so we moved back out the same day we moved in, got the mold taken care of, kept moving forward. Rinse and repeat. Do your research. Who do you need to come and tackle this mold? Focus on one thing at a time. I'm going to have the remediators come in. We're going to throw everything at this for one solid week. We're going to fix it, get the drywall up so we can move back in. Ask for help. I couldn't do it by myself. So I had to ask the place that we were staying before. It was our sister in law's. I said, can we come back and stay for one more week? And she said, sure.
Again, it's life is a series of learning and navigating
And you got to pivot.
and pivot, pivot. It's not straight to the finish goal. Somebody's coming at you, something's gonna happen.
This is not linear.
No.
It is all about the curveballs. Yeah.
So I wanna wrap this with a kind of a thought around the legacy that you, through your leadership, are wanting to leave behind. So when we all show up at the memorial for Paige, what is the legacy? What do you want people to say that they took away from learning through your leadership?
I think I would love for people to know me as your faithful hype girl. I want people to know that you've got a cheerleader in me because not all is lost. It doesn't matter what place you're coming from. We're going to figure out how to get you through, get you to the finish line. So I want people to think of me as that hype girl that's coming with Jesus on my team. Okay. Like it's important that you know that when you get me, you're also getting the greatest person who could assist me in assisting you. And then that leads me to the second thing, which is that I was of service. And if I'm of service as a leader, that's what I want other people to do. I want them to see that when they are in difficult times, like when we were struggling with the fires, immediately it was like, how can we serve? I told you, we opened up our home. We had a revolving door. Anybody who needed a place to stay, I was making all the bagel bites. I was making all the, had the fruit platters and the veggies. I'm trying to like give the children who are coming over for sleepovers something nutritional. Just serve. That got me out of my spinning head was like, "Oh my gosh, turn on an old movie or crank up the jams, have a pool party, get some yummy food, laugh." Like, how can you serve in your community? That's gonna make you a better leader. Yeah, I serve, serve, serve.
Real quickly, when is your podcast? Where can we find you? Name of your podcast today?
I mean, of course, I brought all of this nonsense on myself when I named my podcast Time to Pivot. So the Time to Pivot podcast, if you want to look back, I still have from back in the day. It's still going strong, the Moms Organization Motivation podcast. So you can still get your little get organized in 3 simple steps moments there. But Time to Pivot podcast, and I'm everythingwithstyle.com. If you want to find more information there for all the things that I do, if you want to book me to speak, you can do that. I would love that so much. Just this past week, I was always at Everything with Style Mom on social, and I was because I'm a coach and I believe I need a coach, and Kim has now become a coach of mine. I love her dearly. One of my girls, Amberly Lagos, she has become my official coach, and she said, your socials need to reflect you. And so I just changed. I am now the Paige Killian on socials. So if you want to find me there and some of the things that I'm doing, I would love to connect with you in DMs. Anything that works for you works for me. Let's chat.
Paige, you're a rock star. I knew this was going to be a good conversation. Thank you for stepping into the studio with us today on Kim Talks Leadership and Legacy. If today's profile and strategy showcase gave you that just one thing you need to scale yourself, your family, or your business, don't let the momentum stop here. Take action now. Hit that follow or subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Share this episode with a speaker, coach, or founder who is ready to step into the bigger stage and amplify their message. And remember to visit us at kimtalkspodcast.com to unlock resources and discover our next events. Until next time, keep leading with execution, protect your ecosystem, and keep building a legacy that outlasts